Hey everyone, and welcome back to the EMT Spots Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel Harrison, and I'm here with the incredible Dr. Olivia Harper.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to dive into this topic today.
Me too. We get a lot of questions from listeners about the best time to take blood pressure medication. Seems like a simple thing, but like when you actually start to think about it,
Oh, it gets complicated quickly, doesn't it?
totally. And the more we research it, the more fascinating it becomes.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's really important for people to understand is that blood pressure, it's not just this static number,
Yeah, it's not like you just have one blood pressure number and that's it, right?
Right. It actually fluctuates throughout the day, kind of like the tides, going up and down.
I like that analogy. So it's kind of like a blood pressure tide. It ebbs and flows.
Exactly. And it
Mm.
tends to be the highest in the morning.
Really? In the morning?
Mm,
It's kind of surprising. You'd think it would be highest when you're like stressed out in the middle of the day or something.
you'd think so, wouldn't you? But yeah, it seems like our bodies naturally have this surge in blood pressure in the morning, and then it gradually decreases throughout the day, reaching its lowest point while we're sleeping.
Okay, so if it's highest in the morning, wouldn't it make sense to take your blood pressure meds then? Like right when you wake up?
That's what a lot of people and even healthcare providers thought for a long time. It seems logical, right? Tackle that high blood pressure right out of the gate. But some recent research has really challenged that idea.
Oh, okay, this is where it gets interesting.
It really does. Studies are showing that taking your blood pressure medication at night, right before bed, can actually be way more effective.
Wait, really? But wouldn't your blood pressure be lower at night anyway?
It is, but that's not the whole story. Even though our blood pressure dips at night, there's this kind of sneaky surge that happens a few hours before we wake up. It's like our bodies are prepping for the day
Oh,
ahead.
I see.
And by taking your medication at night, you're essentially setting up this barrier, this protection, to catch that surge before it can even get going.
So it's like instead of playing catch up all day, you're staying one step ahead.
Exactly. And that consistent control seems to be the key. One study actually found that people who took their blood pressure medication at night were 50% less likely to die from a heart attack or stroke.
Whoa, 50%. That's huge.
It is huge, and it really highlights the importance of timing when it comes to managing blood pressure effectively.
So if someone's listening to this right now and they're taking their blood pressure meds in the morning, should they just switch to taking them at night? Like, is that something they can decide on their own?
That's a great question, but I would say hold on there. It's not as simple as just flipping a switch, unfortunately. Everyone is different, and what works for one person might not work for another.
Right, of course. There are so many individual factors to consider.
Exactly. The best thing to do is to talk to your doctor. They can look at your specific situation, your health history, the type of medication you're taking, all of that, and help you figure out the best time for you to take it.
Okay, that makes sense. So don't make any drastic changes without talking to your doc first.
Exactly. It's all about working together to find the best approach. It's funny because we've been talking about taking these medications, but I realize that I don't really know how they work, like what's actually happening in my body when I take my blood pressure meds.
Oh, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us just kind of take the pill and trust that it's doing its thing.
Yeah, exactly. But understanding how they work can actually be really empowering. It kind of takes the mystery out of it.
I agree. So, like, break it down for us. How do these different blood pressure medications actually lower our blood pressure?
Well, there are a few different ways they work, actually. Some of them focus on relaxing and widening your blood vessels.
Okay, so it's like creating more space for the blood to flow through.
Precisely. It's like easing up on the traffic jam in your arteries. And then there are others that act like little sponges, removing excess fluid from your bloodstream.
So less fluid, less pressure.
Right. Exactly. It's all about finding that balance. And then you have some medications that block certain hormones that can cause your blood vessels to constrict.
Oh, interesting. So they're kind of like stopping those signals that tell your blood vessels to tighten up.
Exactly. They're like, hey, relax. Everything's cool.
I like that. So there are all these different approaches, but they're all ultimately aiming to do the same thing, lower our blood pressure.
Absolutely. It's like having a whole toolbox of options to choose from.
Now, I know we talked about the importance of consistency when it comes to taking our meds, whether it's morning or night, but life gets busy and it's easy to forget sometimes.
Oh, I hear you. I've definitely been there myself.
So any tips for staying on track? Like, what are some things you tell your patients who struggle with remembering to take their medication?
Well, technology can be a lifesaver. Setting alarms on your phone or watch can be a game changer.
Yeah, alarms are my go-to for pretty much everything.
Right. It's like having a little personal assistant reminding you, hey, it's pill time.
Another thing I do is I keep my medication bottle, like, right next to my toothbrush.
That's a great idea, making it part of your routine.
Yeah, so I see it every morning and evening, and it's like this visual cue.
You could also try putting a sticky note on your bathroom mirror or fridge or wherever you'll see it.
Oh, that's smart. Or if you live with someone, maybe ask them to give you a little nudge if they know that you haven't taken your meds yet.
Yeah. Sometimes having that extra support can make all the difference.
And of course, if you're really struggling, don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor or pharmacist. They're a wealth of knowledge, and they might have some other strategies that could work for you.
Absolutely. They're there to help you.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about finding what works best for you and your lifestyle.
It really is amazing, right? Like all these little things we can do to kind of hack our health in a way.
Totally. And speaking of hacks, this whole conversation has got me thinking, if timing matters so much for blood pressure meds, what about other medications? Could timing make a difference for, like, pain relievers or allergy meds?
That's a really interesting question, and it's something researchers are starting to explore. Like, what if we could figure out the optimal time to take ibuprofen to get the most relief from a headache?
Or maybe time our allergy meds to match when pollen counts are highest?
Right. It's all about understanding our body's natural rhythms and how they interact with different medications.
So cool. All right, well, before we wrap up for today, let's do a quick recap of what we learned about this whole blood pressure medication timing thing.
Sounds good.
So the big takeaway is that for many people, taking blood pressure medication at night might be more beneficial than taking it in the morning. It might help keep those blood pressure numbers more stable throughout the day and night, potentially reducing the risk of serious complications down the road.
Exactly. But it's super important to remember that everyone is different.
Right. So talk to your doctor before making any changes to your medication routine.
Absolutely. They can help you figure out the best timing for your specific situation.
Okay, so talk to your doc, figure out the best timing, and then be consistent with it.
Exactly. Consistency is key.
Well, Dr. Harper, this has been a fantastic deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
The pleasure was all mine, Samuel. I always enjoy chatting with you.
And to all our awesome listeners out there, thanks for joining us for another episode of the EMT Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm Samuel Harrison.
And I'm Dr. Olivia Harper.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with anyone who might find it helpful. We'll see you next time.